Good morning, everybody. I see all the people are coming in. A quick announcement. Lauren is with us this morning. Unfortunately, she's having some vocal cord issues again this morning, and her voice is very sore. So I told Lauren, please do not feel the need to speak. I will handle it. And so to those frequent flyers that are always with us, you can just go through Lauren's presentation, see the map, and for those new, I'm going to be giving the presentation this morning on the SBDC, and I'm nowhere near as good as Lauren. So you're going to have to check in next time to hear Lauren's official announcement of the SBDC, our sponsor of this show, Small Biz Talk. So here's my go at it. SBDC is your taxpayer dollars at work. How does that work out? Well, you get no cost one-on-one advising with great associates that are experts like myself in tax, finance, and legal structures, as well as marketing, AI, creating a business plan, you name it. Now, the thing that I like to mention that's real important is people that are the advisors like myself. Many of us have our own company. We've been in the game for a long time. In other words, you're getting real people that know what they're talking about. And if you are new to SBDC, you can sign up. Lauren will put the information in the chat if you want to get in touch with her with any questions about getting signed up. Once again, her email will be there. Send her an email. And if you want to meet with any advisors as well as get any contact directly to me, once again, her email. And I wanted to make mention of something. I thought about this the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to take this opportunity. If any of you, especially your frequent flyers that are there, that have been in the quiet background of the chat, if you ever want to be a guest on the show, you know somebody that would be a great guest on the show, you want to be a guest on the show, send an email to Lauren and just say, I'd like to be a guest. It'll come to me. I am currently interviewing and getting people on the show. And so remember, it's not about this big success story. It's your entrepreneurial journey, which is the good, bad, and the ugly. So don't think for a second I haven't achieved enough to be a guest. No, just being there to tell your story. Okay, a few logistics. If you have any questions, put it in the Q&A. The chat's the party. Lauren's going to be there. She's going to be monitoring that as well as putting some of the links in that I am going to review with you right now. So speaking of that, let me go ahead and share my screen and go through some of the things for this morning before we have a great conversation with the guest that we have today. So I don't think I updated my dates. I did not. So shame on me, but I've got what is the best legal structure for your company and the tax advantages coming up in April. So don't look at my screen. Lauren's going to get the right day into the chat. I also have financial literacy session 2 tomorrow and the session 3 on the 19th. That is repeating again in April. Lauren's going to get that in the chat. These two sessions can be taken together if you don't have session 1. And once again, this is where I really get heavy duty into financial accounting, managerial accounting specifically, where we look at how to build a template to know if you're profitable, if you're making money, if you have financial health, all those things that you need to know to be worth your time and sleep better at night. Upcoming shows, those frequent flyers that have been here, remember Leo and Chris from Ritual ACA. I think I say that wrong every time I try to say it, so they'll have to correct me on that. But they're coming back on. They were so much fun on the show. The audience went crazy. I told them at the time of the show, we got to pick up and continue where we left off. And they've opened the new establishment. So that's going to be another area to discuss how that's going, what they've learned. I know they got some challenges and things they didn't think about that they're going to share with you to help you learn from things they've already done. And then March 27th, you guys ready for some serious inspiration? Serious inspiration. We got Reggie Ward of Legacy Life Coaching. Reggie's got a bigger than life personality. You're going to love him. I told him, you got to come on. Let's talk about life. Let's talk about business. Let's talk about his new company that he's launching right now. Let's get a lot of inspiration going. So make sure you tune in on March 27th. I'm going to keep mentioning this. We're going to talk about it in detail probably next month. I'm going to schedule, but it's the beneficial ownership information. Now, guys, this is a brand new report. I know, lots of reports, brand new one. This is through FinCEN, think federal, US Department of Treasury. And what is required is anyone who was incorporated prior to January 1st has a year, so you can put it off for a year. But if you are incorporated this year, you've got 90 days before you fill out this report. Anyone that's considered the beneficial owner, it's people who have 25% or more, and it's also got a huge list of criteria. You can check out the link. It's going to go in the chat. It will tell you everything about it. But I really want you guys to be aware of this because it's one of the highest penalties for not filling it out I've ever seen. $500 a day, up to $10,000 in jail time. And so I don't know if you have the jail time, but the $500 a day, that'll kill you. So make sure you're aware of this new report that you have to do. Okay, I got just a few things. I put a bunch in this slide. I just don't want to forget to tell you things. You know, I always have the words of wisdom, and I always share with you what I've experienced during the week, during the month, and things that I, see people confused about that I want to clear up. So it's tax time, guys. I got to talk tax form. So I'm just going over things. Many of you are going to be like, yes, I already know, but I've had some people not understand how this works. So I'm going to give you some details. So first of all, tax form Schedule C. This is for sole props and single member LLCs. Now, this tax form is inserted in your personal tax form 1040. The Schedule C is done for the business, and then the form is inserted in your personal tax form 1040. And the numbers on the Schedule C flow into the personal tax form under gross income. Okay. And it's due April 15th. I had a couple people, we got a lot of new LLCs. They did not realize that this went into their personal tax form. They used the government-free software to do their 1040 and never did their Schedule C, thinking it was something separate. So I thought, okay, I'm going to come back and explain this in more detail. Now, those of you who have a multi-member LLC, it uses tax form 1065 because it's taxed as a partnership. That's also due April 15th, also goes into the personal tax form. This is why, guys, a sole prop and a single member LLC has no different tax treatment at all. They're taxed identical, and the IRS just says, okay, when there's more than one, we're going to tax it as a partnership. These are the forms it's used. Now, if you are an S Corp, you use 1120S. Now, this is a separate tax form for S Corps and LLCs that filed 2553 to be taxed as an S Corp. This is due March 15th. So in this case, you have a separate tax form for the company due March 15th, and then your personal tax return is due 1040. Once again, a document from there goes into the personal tax return for gross income. That's known as a K1. Now, the franchise tax fee, it's a minimum of $800. Many people had the exempt from 2023. So I want to give you a heads up. This is due by the 15th day of the fourth month at the beginning of the current year. That's the legal words, April 15th. So don't forget to make that $800 payment, because if you don't, they put on fees, penalties, and you can get your company suspended. So these were just kind of a little bit overview of some of the things that you need to make sure you do and the deadlines, because like I said, I got a lot of people that are not familiar and don't understand exactly what they have to do when, and we do not want to get those nasty little letters from any kind of government official. We don't want that at all. Okay, for today, I'm very excited to have our guest, Sharon Beck, today. She's a certified project management expert with 10 years of industry experience in project management and agile practices. Now, in 2023, she founded PROJECTIDY, a agile project management consulting company that focuses on bringing teams together while delivering software and mobile product ideas to life. Sharon, welcome to the show.
Hi, Lori.
I'm
Glad
so
to be
glad to
here.
have you. I just
Very
said it.
excited.
I am so excited to have you on. I've been telling the guest about this for so long for many reasons, but before we go into all the reasons I'm excited to have you, I just said a mouthful about the company. Unpack it. Let's explain to our audience, what does your company do so we can get a start with that?
Right. So, well, my background is in project management, agile project management. So when I wanted to start out my business, I was wondering, what can I do? So what are the one thing that I do best and I enjoy and that I people need? So I figured, well, this is what I do, project management. So
Yeah.
I've offered up the service that there's a need for, which is providing agile project management service. Now, starting off with that, but I work with a lot of developers and engineers in the area, in the technology space. So now, actually, this just happened, but I'll be working with partners to bring on a full stack development service. So this is exciting for me, and we're expanding pretty soon. So I know
Wow.
this is a news to you as well. I know
Yeah,
since last
that's
we
awesome.
spoke.
Walk me back on a word that I find interesting. Now, it could be me because I'm just not in that world, right? But I always remember hearing the word project management. I don't remember ever hearing the word agile
Agile,
project
right?
management. So
Yes.
when did that come in and what does that mean?
So agile project management is, yeah, you could think of it as a buzzword, but this started 20 years ago, pretty much. I don't know if you heard of Scrum, Kanban, things like that. It
No.
basically a lot of it picked up I guess lots of interest in, in the engineering side of things when they're
Okay.
in the development world, developing softwares and things like that, where they have the continuous delivery rather than waterfall is what we know as a traditional project management, where you do the planning up front, and then there's a layers of things that you do first, second, and third, and then you
Okay.
do a one big release where you have the product at the end of the tunnel, pretty
Okay.
much.
Gotcha.
But in between, they came up with what is called Agile, Scrum, and Kanban as part of the Agile uh, different frameworks that they can use, where they do this in an iterative cycle, where you do the little bit of planning just enough, and then you deliver it, get people's feedback or clients' feedback, and then you redo the planning, get the feedback quick and early, learn from it, and go run with it so that you do an incremental delivery continuously. So it is a very quick, that's why they call it agile. And we see a lot more success running in that framework rather than our traditional way. But of course, there's a difference between when do you use one or the other.
Got
So
it. Now I do know what you're speaking of because it was about 20 years ago, and you correct me if I'm wrong on anything I'm saying here, okay? But
sure,
I recall that there was a trend in, and I'm speaking overall marketing, of bringing a product to market before it was so perfected internally
exactly.
to
Yeah.
let the customers experience it so the customers give you more feedback of what you really want. And now that you're speaking of it, okay, you're really gonna have to correct me because I may be completely wrong, but I swear this came a little out of the technology sector because the technology was new and never proven, and it gave the customer feedback. So the technology sector was the leading in this concept. Am I on the right page?
They were leading in the concept, but it really came from Toyota Manufacturing Company.
Oh, really?
Right, right. And then the developers and engineers, there's like group of people that got together and decided to make it a thing. And it's like it kind of blew up as Scrum. There's a certification on it. And then there's Kanban, which is you pick up the work just enough and kind of go run with it. It's a lighter weight in terms of overhead. People can just pick it up and run with it. But think of it this way: two-wheel bicycle versus three-wheel bicycle,
Mhm.
right? Scrum is you could think of it as a three-wheel bicycle. There's a bit of a structure around it so that you have there's a bit more guardrail.
Right.
And Kanban, you just very lightweight, pick up and run with it, the framework that people can run with, but it's very flexible so that there's a lot of way that things can go wrong. It's
I was
so easy to
that
do,
actually.
but a lot of ways that things can go wrong, and people don't realize that. So, when uh, people who wants to pick up and run with their project, they say, "Oh, well, let's go do with the lightweight. Let's forget about all these ceremonies and frameworks that we need to do." And there's a reason behind why we're doing this. So
Okay.
there's a lot of thoughts behind which framework to use when we're running a project.
It reminds me too of in that era when just in time came about and everything was to try to limit production, but as you said, a lot of errors. The thing I was thinking, and once again, let me know if I'm on the right page with this, is that there has to be skill, expert, experience, and a little intuition on what is just enough and what is not enough in the release. So it seems to me that we're in project management, it was more of a schematic and just make sure all the plates are spinning correctly.
Right.
This has a level of guesswork almost where you can go wrong pretty quickly if you release it too soon. So there's a skill level in this as well that wasn't in the old way of doing it. Would I be correct on that?
Well, there's continuous testing going on in every
Okay.
section so that we don't necessarily have to release the product if we feel
Okay.
that it's not quite there yet. So we can do an iterative cycle of building and testing. And when we feel comfortable, we release. So that's two different things. So there's a
Gotcha.
lot of flexibility.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. So was this exactly what you were doing as an employee before you decided to launch the company?
Yes,
Awesome.
yes.
Okay. So now 2023 comes around. Walk us back to that inspiration that said, "Hey, I'm going to do this on my own." Put us back in that space.
Yeah, so in 2023, I was doing very well and I really enjoy my team, working with the team, building the team and supporting them. Was really doing just fantastic and I was very happy. And all of a sudden, we got an axe from our parent company that pretty much the whole section of the technology space got laid off. So we
Uh-huh.
were let go, including all the C-level executives. So it's just, where did this come from? All of a sudden we got called in 9 a.m. in the morning and we're just hearing this news.
Wow.
And yeah, and my first thought was, this is the moment. This is the thing that I like, what do I do next? Right.
Yeah.
It still really got me to think hard because sure, I could go out and get another job and just keep on doing what I'm doing. But at the same time, I just took it as an opportunity because I've also, well, always really wanted to have my own company, but I
Yeah.
just didn't know in what. What can I do? What product? I have no idea.
Right.
And I took this as an opportunity also because knowing all the executives that I truly love working with, they are also in the same boat as I am. And I figured they got time, at least a little bit, right? So I thought I'm just gonna take this as an opportunity and really just, ask them for all these questions that I might have and use them as my mentor. And, I just thought, what can I lose? I'll
What
give
a
myself some time
beautiful story.
to
What a
just,
beautiful story.
yeah, get it
Yeah.
through. And if I can't make it, then I could always find another work. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
the
how
what's
it
the word
started.
people I always tell people I started my first company when I was, like, 25, and they go, "How much inspiration was that?" And I go, "No, desperation." And it was kind of the same thing. I was a top in my sales, and I got asked to sign a non-compete, and it was in Texas at a time period when that really mattered, and I was like, "No." And so they said, "Sign it or out." And so I went home, and I was young, and I had a house payment, all this, and I cried all night and I got up in the next morning and I brushed my knees off and I drove down to the courthouse. Remember, no winternet. And I opened up a DBA and I said, "That's it. I'm on my own. I'm not." And so I started my first company on desperation and look where I am. And I think desperation is sometimes great, meaning you just weren't planning on it, but you took
Right.
that chance. But what a wonderful move and what a smart way to think. I've got all these talent now that I can also talk to. Now, in that, Sharon, how did it transgress to finding clients? Because I don't know in your position if you were more working with the clients than now having to go get the clients. So, one of the biggest fears people have is they're now a salesperson and that wasn't what
Right.
they were before. Can you speak to that aspect?
Right. I'm definitely not a salesperson. I'm an introvert and
I don't believe that.
no, I mean, I really this is not my thing. and I cannot schmooze. I cannot do any of the stuff that you're supposed to do.
Mm,
So I was really the only thing is that I really enjoy the people that I work with, and as an individual, like I don't do too well with group of people, but independently, I really enjoy the relationship.
yeah.
So I went back, I looked through my LinkedIn, and I looked at all the previous colleagues that I had really enjoyed working with, and I reached out to them and provide like actually talk to them as in, well, it was two birds down in one with one stone, so to speak, because it gave me the opportunity to reconnect with my
Uh-huh.
old colleagues and just try to understand like where are they in their life, because I truly wanted to know.
Mhm.
Besides that, also ask them, by the way, this is my new venture. Do you guys need help? What can I do for you? And that's how kind of went along. And I gave myself sort of like a list every day, maybe go through 30 people, reach out to 30 people or 20 people, how many ever that was, I forgot. But I would just do a check off as in, okay, I reach out to this many people. And what are the comments that I got? Did I get any response back? So those were the systematic things that I've done on a day-to-day basis to push myself, but at the same time, I did go back to really reconnecting with my old colleagues. And yeah, and one of those person that needed help. And sure.
Gotcha.
So that's
Y-
how I,
There's so many wonderful things to unpack about that I just love. One of them is that when you look at it in such a purely simple manner, I'm just going to go into the resources, people I knew, have a conversation with them, tell them what I'm doing. It becomes so natural, and you find you have rich resources. So many people get stuck with, okay, I got to have a marketing plan, I got to do this. That is beautiful. But then what I absolutely love is the list and the goal of the exact number of people that you have to call. I remember going back a long time ago when I was still, maybe only 28, the industry changed out from underneath me and my company, and I had to call all new clients, and it was really hard. And I made this goal that I had to make so many calls during a day because I felt like I was getting nowhere. And I looked, and there was this plastic cup, and there was these rocks that held a silk plant in the office. And so I took out like the 10 rocks, and I was like, I got to dump a rock in this cup every time at least somebody answers the phone, because it was like, I can't say I'm going to get the right person, but somebody answers the phone. And so I did that, and I would drop a rock every day, 5 times a day, right? So I had 50 calls a day. And before I knew it, I just focused on dropping the rocks, and I had a whole new client base. So it's the just looking at it in a very simple manner, but then having a schedule, and your story just exemplifies it. And I think it's a great takeaway for anybody in the audience that suddenly finds them in a sales situation, that you just look at it so wonderful from that. And the other thing I love, and I want to go there for a second on this, Sharon, is that I talk about service-based companies, and I'm going there right away. I know we chatted about it, but this is a beautiful moment. I'm jumping in on it. Was really excited, and I told the audience that you're, I think, one of the first people, or one of the few people that have a consulting model. And a consulting model is anything for me when you're selling your own skill. You could be a massage therapist, you can be selling words, you can be selling project management, but you're a solopreneur selling your own skill. And as we were talking before we got started, is over the years, this type of business model, in my opinion, has been falsely spoken against. It's like, oh, you can't do this, you can't transfer, you can't do all that, it doesn't make as much money. And I can tell you from looking at the numbers all my life and being a banker, that is so not true. And we're going to hit this as we go throughout this conversation. And one of the areas that I want to bring up right away, and I'm going to put a little words in your mouth, and you let me know if we need to take them back out. But what I heard with the LinkedIn, you were able to contact your LinkedIn, you found a client, you didn't have to find 20, 30, 50 clients. because you didn't have the overhead. So suddenly you got a call, you got a client, you're rocking and rolling. You're in business now and you are making money right away on the get go. So I'll let you chat on that concept of how you're able to sell your skills and really be making money in a very simple manner, in a very quick manner.
Yeah, that part of it is I do agree with you, Lori, that I wasn't in an urge to just take whatever that comes my way because I have to make money.
Mhm.
Um, it is definitely it was important, but I wanted to find the right client and I wanted to position myself in a certain way as a business now, business of one.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, if had I had a full staff, I wouldn't have that kind of luxury,
Right.
right? And also, again, being sort of introvert and not really good about talking out and being out there, being a salesperson, I I can talk about myself in terms of what can I do and what can I offer, right? Not what other people can do. So I think in that sense, it made it easier for me to say that, do you need help with X, Y, and Z? This is what I can do for you. Right. So that made it help easier. And then also the fact that I only need X amount of overhead to go, to basically earn. So I'm not under a constant pressure to be making so much money so that I could pay the bills. So I'm
Right.
not on that. So that is definitely a plus. And I do see that a lot of people around me are in the same situation where they'd rather have themselves as a solopreneur. They don't want to grow because they got it all going. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's just a matter of choice in this case.
It is, and, I'm not meaning these numbers exactly, but it took me a long time. I think it was in my 40s when I finally caught on. I was like, "Wait a minute, I could have $1,000,000 in revenue and make 100,000, or I could be just me and have maybe 110,000 in revenue and make 100,000, right? Because you're making the same thing, but here I got freedom, I got this, I can choose my clients." And that's when I realized that unless you're going to grow all the way to here, sometimes it's better to just stay here and you can and I have to say this as a shout out to everybody in the audience, and I've said this so many times during the pandemic, looking at all the numbers and tax returns, which I look at so many, it makes me puke at the end of the day, believe me, tons. The companies that I see that are kicking butt out there are the solopreneurs that are of some type of consultant model. They're making money here, the other ones are losing the money on the other sale. It is the beautiful business model. And what I just had, I have a funny, in other words, you actually have an agile project management within your own company because you're agile enough too. So I
Yeah,
realized
exactly.
you actually took what you do and you used
Yeah,
it for your own infrastructure. I couldn't help it. I had to say that because I was thinking, yeah, she's pretty agile. She's got
I
her
am.
own agile project management. Okay, so now let's walk into the other side of the coin, if you will, because the argument that you're limited because it's only yourself isn't really true because you can partner, team up, and make choices, and it allows you to go after other things. So I'm going to come back with another aspect to our three-leg stool that I'm creating, but let's talk about the agility. I'm going to stay with that word in
Awesome.
being able to change your infrastructure on a temporary basis as needed to still go after the big clients.
Right, right. So I'm finding out and learning as I go myself. And I think always come back to what's helping me. I think I know that we're not really focusing on that part of it, but having the relationship and knowing a lot of people really does make a huge difference
Yeah.
because I'm also signed up with women-owned business, WeBank. I got certified in that, and all of a sudden, I got some information saying, "Hey, we're looking for X, Y, and Z to partner up with." It's like, okay, and I look at my list of people that I know, and I see so many individual with talent that I could bring on
Mm.
and beef up my service,
Yeah.
right? And then go after and provide the service to the client in need. But not necessarily, that doesn't mean that I need this under my belt, like having all these people to hire under me right at this moment in order to go after these
Right.
opportunities. So in that sense, I can be small, I can be big. It gives me that flexibility like that. So I'm just like surprised. But and then obviously this is a very good starting point. And then later on, if I feel that this is the way to go, yes, at that point I could decide once I'm ready to commit, have my own really grow my own company.
Yeah.
And that is the direction that I wanted to go to. But at this point, it does give me that lot of flexibility.
Well, and what I love about it is the growth is pacing up with where you are and where your profitability is. You're
Yep.
not having to grow over here and then be not profitable and take out bank loans and everything to cover that growth.
Right.
And that's what's so beautiful about it. Before I go the next, and I do want to bring in a question from the audience. Brenda wants to know women-owned business. What is that? So that's a great question. Can you talk about that for us, Sharon?
Yes, yes. I mean, I was so surprised there's so much opportunity for supporting women. And We Bank is an organization that supports women-owned business. So I'm sure you can go and look it up, WBENC,
Okay.
and they're huge. And same thing, similar to SBDC. It's just an organization trying to support. And on my last day of the day that I was supposed to get laid off, I connected with a woman leader, and she really became my mentor and guided me. And she was the one who introduced me to WeBank. And there was a conference that was coming up. I just got my plane ticket and picked up everything, and I just went all in. And I absolutely love the experience and the support that I get. So, especially those all of us women, there's so much support out there, and I'm just finding out myself, and I am happy to be a woman in today's age, like right now today, because I'm getting so much support and opportunities that I'm very grateful for everything.
And while we're talking about support and mentorship and also having what we called in the old days a Rolodex, I just aged myself, right? So one thing I'm going to have 2 points that I want to bring up together so I don't forget them, Sharon, is one is I talk to people that a lot of times it's good to work for somebody else for a while to build up the experience, build up the contacts, build up the resources, because then when you venture out on your own, you have all these resources. So that's one thing is I thought we would chat about, and you can comment on just the benefit of staying as an employee for a while that's helped you today. And then I'm also, so I don't forget how important it is for especially a solopreneur to have that mentorship, to have that support, to have somebody to talk to. So I know I got two totally different, if I could throw both of them at you for comments.
Right. So interestingly enough, as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, that always wanted to have my own business, right? And even when I was working for a company, I'm always looking around, who is the people that I want to work with continuously? And who are the people that really rocks? What are the things that they're good at, that makes them shine? What can I learn from? Right? And how do I keep the relationship going with these people? And I'm not talking about executive or leadership level. They're just, my colleagues, right? So there's always stuff to learn, things from everyone. And then also, I mean, I'm always looking for talent throughout the whole time. That it wasn't that I was looking to come out and have my own company. I didn't even think of that, but always in my head, who do I want to always keep that relationship going, right? So now I came out and I look back, and I have a sense of who I want to work with, what kind of supposedly people that I want to bring on to my group of people, like my connection, to help with the growth of the company. So I think that is really helpful. And also the systems and things that are in the bigger company, those are a lot of learning points that,
Yeah.
you always, I mean, these are like, they're paying you to learn. So those are always a great things to take away. And mentorship. Be brave and talk to the executives. They're human, right? They always want to help out. So I reach out to a lot of the folks that are in the leadership and just started talking. And some of them are just, I mean, I have to say all of them that I spoke with, they're just amazing, amazing people, lots of information, very knowledgeable and very kind. And they were really helpful in terms of getting my business off and running and encouragement and all that. That was just really valuable. And I think working for a company allows you to connect with all these people. You're in the company already with
Yeah.
set of great people. They've already been filtered out, right?
Right.
So make use of it. And
Yeah.
that's what I did.
You know what's so funny? So everybody in the audience, I can actually attest to everything Sharon's saying because I remember when you first got introduced to me with the SBDC with a question. I didn't even think about it till now. I remember you go, I'd like to set up an appointment. There's just so much I can learn from you. I would like to know more. I remember that. And you were like, I want to know what about this and this. So
Yeah, I
yes,
asked so many questions. Yeah.
which is a beautiful thing, and, I wanna go back a second to what you talked about with the companies having systems in place, and in that, I wanna speak about processes, and Sharon, what better to speak to somebody than an agile project management expert about processes, and where I'm going with this is, by default, your business is gonna be processes, but I see so many solopreneurs, maybe they're starting out by they're selling a product on Etsy, and they don't have internal processes and they're trying to remember what they do on a daily basis. And I always tell people that today we're not really manufacturers, we're process oriented people, and the processes give you a competitive advantage. If you look at Amazon, whether you like them or not, I'm not going down that road, but they got their processes together and they
Absolutely.
came to the top of the list because of processes. So why don't you just chat about anything you want to talk about with processes because we can all learn to be better with our processes from a project management process expert.
Uh, well, so since we're all small business, starting up and trying to learn from each other, what helped me personally in getting my business off and running was to make a list of all the things that I needed to do,
Okay.
right? And just in the beginning of the show, Lori, you've mentioned all the paperwork that we have to do and make sure that we don't forget, right? So if they're all over the place, most likely we're gonna forget and
Yep.
we're gonna be paying a lot of fines, right? So initially, I have no idea. Like, what are the things that do I need to do? What are the holes, right? I made my list, sort of like a project. I made a list of things that I needed to do. And believe me, starting March 1st was the time that I was my layoff happened. So starting March 1st, I worked 8 hours a day, just really listing all the things that I needed to work on in a systemized way of these are the first thing I planned it out pretty much. Like these are the things that I'm gonna do. It's gonna take about 2 months. These are the things that I'm gonna do next, and then so on and so forth. And having the list of work that needed to be done in front of you, you get to see where you're at and what things that still needed to be done and what things you need to adjust. So this is simplest way to do it. It's like don't even complicate yourself. Just make a list and put a deadline on where you need things to be done and then go from there. And also, what helped me as well is to create your full folder structure in your computer to make sure that you're always putting the right thing in there to go
Yeah.
back to, right? Just to be a little bit more organized. So if you notice, my company name is Projectedy. A lot of the people tell me I was organized, and I thought, okay, how do I play with the word project and tidy? I don't know if you noticed.
Oh,
So
I thought perhaps I did. I actually thought that. Yes.
yeah, so just with one T, and I wanted to make it more like a technology company. So I was like, okay, call it Projectedy, not Projectity. It's Projectedy.
I love it. I go back to that old saying, which I'm going to kill. Maybe somebody in the audience remembers it better, but there's some statement about, the organized person, achieves things. And I think discipline and organization is still one of those vital skills that can be the defining difference between success and failure. The more organized you are, the more you can take on. You just can. You know, I thought about that last night because, and I can't say I got to turn off my volume because he's going to comment right now. But I always say, "Hey, Theory," you know, okay, and I say this, and so what I do is, okay, didn't hear me. So I lay in bed, I got my phone way in the other room, and I yell the name, and I say, "Add a reminder for tomorrow," and I do this all day because then I can have things in my head, and then I can transfer them there, and so we got ideas, and we gotta have a way to organize them. So I love the list concept. So in kind of the same vein of thought, Sharon, this is another area that I think you excel at. You're very precise and clear when you speak. I'll show you where I'm going with this. Many times, entrepreneurs have a really hard time being clear when they're communicating with clients, what it exactly they do, how they do it, their whole processes. By the time they're, and then we do this in our products, this, you know, the elevator speech of being able to say what you do. When you're a solopreneur in a consulting and you could do all kinds of things, then I see people say, and I do this, and I do this, and I do this. And then the client like doesn't even know quite what you do. So how did you find that beautiful middle ground where you learn to explain what you do, which could be vast in a way that people can comprehend it and put it in a box of what they need, if that makes sense how I'm asking it?
Yeah, well, it took some time for me too. I mean, I heard this all the time where you need to really niche down and really focus, right? What are you offering? And obviously, like you mentioned, there's so many things that I can do, but where do I excel in? Where did I come from, and what are the things that I can offer that people know and understand, and there's a need for? And I know that there is a need for a scrum master. I know that there is a need for a project manager. And those kind of go together, depending on your skill set, like what your background is. And I have those two skill sets. So therefore, I label myself as agile project management professional because I could go either way. I have certification for both, and I've worked in both. So I know the nuances. I know how to work with these two different frameworks. So now with that, I focus on the engineering side because that's also where I came from. However, I could just say, open it up and say, I could work for you. I could work for you.
Mm.
I could, as a project manager, you can work for anybody, really,
Right.
right? But I really wanted to niche down, and I didn't even look that far. Basically, what was I doing before I got laid off?
Yeah.
And where do I excel at? And where do I continue to work at? What do
Now
I
in
want to do?
in the
Yeah.
same way, like if somebody was to make a product, they look at the mold and they would sit there and try to figure out what it is and how it comes together. I'm assuming you had to spend a little time thinking your wordsmithing, how you were going to describe it. So I just want to make an emphasis on that. When you're a consultant, you really do have to not just have the first thing that comes out of your mouth. What you said is very clear, but I have to believe that then you spend some time saying, well, what am I going to define myself as? What sentences am I going to use to explain? So it's just kind of a shout out to the audience that you probably spent the same amount of time thinking about the description and the communication regarding your services as people do designing a product.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I was not that bright for spending all this time because I thought people would just come up with these stuff like that. But no, I did spend a lot of time sitting the first 8 hours every day, the first couple months, really to define what is it that which direction am I going? What is it that I'm selling? How do I want to present myself? What are my values? I mean, all these things that you hear about as a business owner, I did it. So I made a list of things to be done beforehand because I knew that once I start working for somebody, I'm the person who is also the talent and the business owner. So I knew that my time is going to be limited. So I wanted to make sure that all these things that I needed to set up ahead of time are done prior to me going after clients. So
And,
yeah,
I really love that, and I'm glad we're talking about it because so often I meet people that are not able to easily communicate what they're doing, be it a product or a service, but especially a service. And, they go online and they download these business plan templates and they start filling them out. Now, I'm not saying you don't need a business plan, especially if you're going for investment, but what you really I'd rather see people do if you're not having to submit an official business plan to a bank, you get a blank sheet of paper and you do exactly what you said. What am I offering? What am I selling? What are the values? I have people that fill out these complete templates and they still cannot answer those small questions, and those questions are huge. So, in that, here's another area that I want to make sure we chat about because I see people get messed up on this. When they worked for a company, they recognized that they got a salary, but somebody was like, Sharon, you can't spend 20 hours on this, or you're going to get fired. You got to have your timesheet. You got to know how you're investing your time, right? Well, when you start your own company and you're selling your time, people think, well, I don't need a timesheet. They say, I'm going to charge this per hour or per project, but they're not counting internally the amount of time taken to deliver it in relationship to how much they're charging. And a lot of them, when I get them to do the math, Sharon, they're making minimum wage and don't even know it. So let's talk about how you manage internal time in making sure you not only fulfill the project requirements for the client, but you're spending the right amount of time that you believed, so you're pricing and charging correctly.
yeah, it's still a struggle.
Yeah.
I don't have all the right answer in this case, but I do know that there is a market rate for client. So I can't overcharge. I mean, I could definitely undercharge, but why would you want to do that, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Especially when you have all the years of experience, which I
Mm,
mean, it comes with the cost. So with the price, basically. So um I try to I had my mentors, my executives, right? I reach out to them to kind of ask about like what is the going rate and brainstorm around that, and I came with the pricing. Um, so that was the pricing for the client.
okay,
And in terms of utilizing how much more time to be added to work in my business, I don't really keep track of that. Maybe I should,
yeah,
but I try to put in whenever I can an hour or two or 3 hours a week just to make sure that I have all the things in line. But I do know that when things needs to be done, you just have to do it. You can't be just, keeping track of time. Especially, remember the time that I spent with you in going through the books,
yep,
learning the QuickBooks? That was
yeah,
a nightmare.
yeah,
And I spent days trying to understand how that worked.
yeah.
And I didn't keep track of those, but it just had to get
Well,
stuff
and
done.
that brings to another point I always like to tell people, when they're a consultant or a service base, they say, well, I can work, 20 hours. And I'm like, wait, no, no, even if you work 40, probably at least 30%, if not more, is what I call non-billable. In other words, your admin, your sales, your
Yeah.
marketing, all that invoicing, so you don't bill like you would if you were a salary. You have a good percentage of your chunk of time that's non-billable. That's why the billable time has to be managed so well. Otherwise, you end up where you're not meeting your financial requirements. And that's just kind of it. Before I go too far, I want to make sure I get a question from the audience. Can you say the name of the women's group and how you to reach out to them, that women's group that you loved and you went to the conference with?
Oh, is WeBank.
That's what I thought, it was WeBank. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Lauren, go ahead and throw that in the chat. While I'm on it, any other groups or any other associations that you got involved in that you really love that you want to mention? Let me bring that up as well.
SBDC. You,
Ah,
Lori.
good. Okay, your check's in the mail for that one, Sharon. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
way to go. Yeah,
No,
awesome.
I really utilized the service with you guys. It was just amazing that I didn't even know this type of service was offered. And I reached out to you, Lori, multiple times, and just because I was struggling. And had I not known Lori was available, I'd be in a lot of trouble at this. time. Yeah. And I have to say that. And I have to say that I learned so much from you and I'm so grateful. And all the things that you're telling me, they're just jewels. Like I take it and I let it sink in and I learn from it. And I mean, I accept it as in like, I know you have also mentioned to me earlier that, hey, you don't need to have a team. You can be a solopreneur and do very well.
Mhm.
So I got that. And I heard that. And I heard it multiple times from others as well. So it's a journey for me to learning all these. And, there's always this first time.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of first time. I'm hearing a lot of first things from Lori. Otherwise, I'd be paying a lot of fees at this point.
Well, yeah, yeah, you definitely had some challenges, Sharon, just like everybody else, because you know what I always tell people is that unfortunately, the entrepreneurship Hollywood world has underestimated the importance of good old fashioned legal finance accounting knowledge and made everything feel a little too DIY than in areas it's not, and I always say that that's where it stretched people, where they kind of get this feeling like there's not complexity to accounting or finance or government forms, and oh my god, there is a lot of complexity to that, absolutely, on that. I'm going to go on a inspirational question. I have to believe, and you can say no, Lori, yeah, and feel free to say no, no, Lori, but I have to believe that when you first ventured out and suddenly you were selling yourself and your words and handling that project under your own umbrella versus the employer, you had to have a little fear inside. And fear is one of the biggest things that entrepreneurs have to deal with. Can we talk about that little fear and if you experienced it and what you've learned and how you overcame it? So a big, shout of inspiration to those out there that may be feeling it.
Oh my God.
I guess I hit it, huh?
Every step of the way, I am the biggest chicken on earth. I am so afraid of every little thing you would not believe. So, but I also learn and study a lot, and I try to utilize what I learn. And one of the things that I picked up, I don't even know from who, because I pick up so many things from all over the place. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys are also the same way. But one of the things is that the fear, what you believe that things are gonna happen, it will never really happen. There's only
Yeah.
like tiny percentage that
Yep.
it will happen. And
Die a
also,
million times and only die once, that's
right,
yes.
right, right. And then also the fact that you fear, you're like over exaggerating a lot of things that are gonna happen, but it's not true.
Yeah.
So even just the first step of having my own business, deciding that part of going this direction, I was, even though I said, oh yeah, I had all these mentors. Oh yeah, I had this perfect opportunity. I still had to make that decision. And what helped me, I hope that this will help you as well, all of you guys, was to make a list.
Yeah.
If I go in this direction, what are the pros and cons? And when you see the cons, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you actually get to see it on paper, it's not a big deal, and you can deal with it. And then also another thing to think about is, would it matter if I turn 80 something and looking back?
Yeah.
Like, what am I so fearful of? If I made a mistake, if it doesn't work out, oh well, you move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm constantly in fear. Even this talk with Lori, I was sweating. I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to say. What do I know? But just do it anyway,
Yeah.
because life is about experience. And I know Lori mentioned this to me as well, which was like also, again, learning that hit me. I was like, I want to have my own team. I want to grow my company. And Lori's like, you don't have to. But this is the direction. This is the life experience that you want. This
Mhm.
is like a family planning. And I never saw it that way. So it's the perspective of how you see things. And it's not going to kill you. Just
No,
go and do it.
I can remember I don't remember every but a thing about the conversation, but as you said it, I remember you go, I never saw it that way. That really helps, and I knew the light bulb, and, to me, life is all about the experiences. What do I want to experience? And then what are the events that will help me to experience? And, going back on, I was always afraid. I always was, and I was afraid of everything, and one of the biggest things I was afraid of, especially when I was younger, of failure, right? And I decided this was like in my 20s, early 30s, guys, I don't remember, but I decided to rewrite the definition for success and failure. So I wrote it that success was to try and failure was to not try.
Oh,
And
that's
that made it,
awesome.
yeah, and that made it, I
I'm
was just
gonna
like,
take that.
that really makes it quite simple, and it's so true, we die so many million deaths in our own life. In fact, during the pandemic, it was full of fear, and I didn't wanna go back to fear. I worked so hard on getting rid of fear, and so I started a new thing. I was like, "Well, let me look at this. Everything I'm afraid of, I'm gonna ask myself 2 questions. Is it imminent? It's gonna happen no matter what, guaranteed 100%. Is it imminent? And is it immediate? Is it happening now?" If it isn't one of those 2, go on your pathway and let it go. And I thought to myself, well, even if it was imminent and immediate, like a bomb was ready to fall on my head, that wouldn't matter.
Right.
So when you start boiling it down, and I have to go back, I want to say again, writing it down, I'm like you. When I get where that little head spinning and my stomach hurts, I gotta write. And sometimes I'll even get out my little pen and I'll write, Lori, honey, what's bothering you?
I
I
love it. I
literally
love
did
it.
that. And then I'll write back, well, I don't feel good about what? And I did, and I have to do it because otherwise it gets in my head and it spins around.
It
But if I put
circles,
it on
yeah.
paper, I can then hold up the piece of paper and go, well, that's not so scary. It's just a piece of, well, it's now my iPad I write on. I'm like, that pen is on the iPad. That's pretty cool. How can you be scared of that? But yeah, writing things down is just such a great, great thing. Well, first of all, I want to say before I say last remaining remarks, what have I got to say? It's already 3 minutes to ending today, and we've been talking forever. So you can see
Wow.
there was a lot to say. And you know what? And the chat, I can see everybody just loved this conversation. I knew they would. So with our remaining time, any last words you'd like to part with our audience on? And we're going to, of course, ask you to come back in several months because we want to get an update on where it's going from there. Because this is groundbreaking news. We got to find out what else you've learned along the way. But
I
for
would
where
love
you
to.
are right now, last thoughts that you'd like to share with us.
Yeah, by the way, Projectity is turning 1 this week.
Oh, happy birthday! Congratulations. That's
Right.
awesome.
Yep. Um, I think, I mean, I really am so grateful for everything. I think that is helpful in everything in terms of even looking at what I'm fearful of, right? Because everything boils down to experience. And good or bad, I'm so grateful because I get to experience all the things that are happening around me and happening to me. And having this business allow me to learn that much more and push me to interact with that much more people. Like reaching out, connecting with you, Lori. This is magical. Being able to push myself to talk with all the other mentors, that's magical. Being able to get all these amazing support from a lot of the people around me that I never knew that people want me to succeed. Even my client was so supportive. And I just bounce off my ideas like, hey, what do you think about this? Can I support you in this or that? This is coming from how could I truly support you? Because I'm truly grateful. And they feel that and they want to in return support you even more. So that is my story. But I just think that, I don't know. I mean, I think maybe for you as well, if you're more grateful for every little thing that you experience, that will make your life that much more happier.
That is such a beautiful thing. And I think a lot about gratitude because I do believe that there is something magical in the world that when you have gratitude and you send it out, more things come to be grateful for. And a lot of times, when I don't feel it, I have to just look around and I usually look at my cat. And so, then I'm like so grateful for my cat. But I think there's so much truth. And I love what you're saying because I mean, life can get really hard. I've been there. I'm old enough. I've had really hard times in my life and I've had really good times, but I will always believe that life is magical and life can be fun. And I always use this expression and I tell people all the time that there's magic fairy dust in my life. Remember in that old cartoon when he had magic fairy dust and he made the reindeers fly? I always think I got magic fairy dust, and when I don't feel like I'm got everything together, I do this little motion and I'm throwing up little magic fairy
I
dust. And
love
you know,
it.
the more we can be childlike, not childish, but childlike and imaginative and look at things as the experience and get out of our head the Hollywood entrepreneur and the success and all that programming crap, get it out of your head and just get up and go, wow, I'm alive, I'm breathing. What can we make it? I do that every morning when my cat Babu, we wake up and she's annoying me because she wants to be fed right away. And she's licking my nose and standing on me. And I go, Babu, look, we're both alive. We're both breathing. What's going to happen today? And I
Yeah.
think that's a way to live, whether you're talking about business or personal, because it really does make it fun. And entrepreneurship is hard, but it should be fun,
Yeah.
creative, and imaginative too. Sharon, it has been an absolute joy having you on the show. I know I can tell from the chat, I can't always see everything because it goes too fast, but it is tons of things being said, and they thoroughly, thoroughly enjoy everything. So, once again, thank you for being there, Lauren. I'm not going to ask you to speak. Thank you for being behind the scenes. I know you held up the chat and everything. We hope to hear you next week, Lauren. And to all those that are here for the very first time, thank you so much. To the frequent flyers that are here every Wednesday, you are so awesome. I always enjoy seeing you. And Sharon, best of luck on everything. I know you're going to do fantastic things. And so, to everybody out there, thank you once again for joining me on Small Biz Talk with your host, Lori Williams. And I will see you next week for another great show. Bye, Sharon.
You. Bye bye.